The Renew podcast features inspiring conversations between host Lauren Martin and influential women shaping the real estate industry. Renew is a rent-free initiative to unite and cheer on women professionals from every corner of the real estate world, coast to coast.
In the spirit of Renew is all about female mentorship. It's about bringing seats to the table, making room for other women, helping them climb up the ladder. What does female mentorship mean to you?
So I think female mentorship it's interesting. It's interesting because I always go back and forth between, if you're not being formally mentored, are you being really mentored? And I do not get formally mentored, though I would like to. I don't know where you would find that time. And I do try to mentor definitely some of our staff, but it's difficult because it is such a fast moving position and you're always on the go. And so I've reckoned that mentoring is being there for people, when you can, when you think you can help them bring something to the table. We are here at the association putting together a mentor program and more of a formal mentor program. And I think it's just really important to make sure that you have people that have natural connections instead of forced connections. And so I think mentorship is something that I always look for, that opportunity with people that I can hopefully give them some and have an open door policy for them. But I do wish and I hope that in the future I can do more to help be a mentor and take more time for people in a formal way.
Yeah, that makes total sense. It is kind of like a full-time job. But there is like a balance, you said, right? Like it doesn't always have to be a formal thing. Just being available, I think, having an open door policy, no stupid question, right? Like if you have a question, feel free to ask me. I mean, I know a lot of women look up to you in this space. And one thing in particular that I have heard about you that people always say is she's so poised on stage and she's so well spoken. And a lot of people are afraid to speak on stage, and I know you are no stranger to that. So, what would be your number one tip to ladies who are nervous about being in the spotlight on all of these industry stages?
I think you have to just keep practicing and say yes when you want to say no. I was terrified to publicly speak. A quick story, I did not think that I was terrified to publicly speak. And so I was supposed to do a presentation in front of my college class. And I got in front of there and I could barely get a word out. I was stunned that I had no idea that I was terrified to publicly speak. And then after that, it just snowballs, as it does for most people, because then you avoid ever publicly speaking because you know that you kind of are afraid to publicly speak. And so what I made myself do is I enrolled in Toastmasters, and I dedicated early on in my career my lunch hour every Thursday to Toastmasters. And I signed myself up with a bunch of old people, so I didn't feel intimidated because some of these Toastmaster classes, people can be quite brutal. They're ringing bells, if you say an ah or an which I still do say a lot. It's kind of embarrassing. And so there you go. So being around these older people, I really kind of could let my guard down and really, instead of thinking about what they were thinking about me, I was able to really embrace the process and concentrate on what I was doing. And so I started with Toastmasters. I did that for 2 years and got to an okay standpoint. And then I did intros for little things and just continued to build up from there. Then I got thrust into being the CEO of the association. I was not expecting to be the CEO, nor did I want to be the CEO at that time. I had very little kids. Yeah, it was like basically, you're like, take it or, you're never going to have that opportunity again. And so then I had to speak in public a lot. And we have a meeting every year. It's our annual meeting where I'm supposed to give a big state of the association. And that was really difficult for a long time. I'm a good writer, and so I was able to script it out, but we know that when you read, you're not really connecting with people, and they don't really feel that passion that really, you want them to feel in that you're writing. So it's a process, and I think don't give up, right? And I continue to say yes because I'm an introvert. Publicly speaking takes a lot out of me because I'm super stressed out about it. I'm overthinking everything that, I know what I want to say because I'll script it out, but obviously if you're not reading, it never comes out the way you write it.
Yeah.
So you're like constantly thinking about that great word that you used for something that usually you will never remember on stage.
Yeah.
So it is just to the point where you finally can become more comfortable. And I will tell you, I'm still very uncomfortable doing it. It is something I work towards and I practice. And I appreciate the compliment that people think that I actually am good on stage. But like I said, do not give up. Start small, work your way up, and just keep saying yes to those public speaking moments. Because once you can get to that point where you can express yourself on stage, people really, I think, will feel much more what you're trying to tell them.
Yeah, I love that. And, it is comforting. And I think people will find comfort that even you still get nervous, right? Like, you don't do it like 5 times and you're like, oh, whatever, like this is easy. It does, you always have that kind of anxiety in the back of your mind.
Yes.
And I love the advice of choosing a older class to do the Toastmasters with, because it is really anxiety producing to speak in front of your peers, right? Like there's this perception that they're judging you more. So that's really good advice. I love that. And you know what I will say is I've seen you speak on stage many times and you never seem nervous. It just comes out effortlessly. And you might have forgot that word, but like I didn't know you were going to say that word. So, in your head, maybe it seems bigger to you than it does to other people for sure.
I'll tell you also, you always think it's going to be so great, and I have never had good experiences with a teleprompter. I'll tell you, I'm recent past chair of CMLS.
Mm-hmm.
And so if you're the CMLS chair, you basically do the first half of the CMLS conference, and then the new incoming chair does the last day and the last half of the conference. And so the previous year when I was incoming chair, and I'm doing the last part, I'm supposed to be giving like a big speech. And our CEO Dionna was like, don't worry, we have a teleprompter. And I thought, great, because I really have some specific things I want to say, and you want to transition it really well. And right before I went on, the teleprompter broke. And I had to totally like ad-lib. Let me tell you,
No.
If anybody thought that was good, thank you very much. I don't know, because you just, you kind of blank out and you just start talking, and then you get off and you're like, okay, I hope that was, okay. So
Yeah.
don't rely on teleprompters.
Yeah, well, I'm very dyslexic, and so I find when I read something, it all comes out like jumbled. But then to your point, when you don't have that, you just kind of black out. It's like when you're driving, I don't know, maybe this is dangerous, maybe this is just me, but sometimes I'm driving and I get to where I'm going and I'm like, oh, wow, how did I get here? You just kind of black out a little bit.
Yeah. Well, it's not that you were blacked out. It's usually that you were probably thinking really hard about something else. And so my drive time, I really use that for like really, thinking hard about, different issues and things and what have you. So I have those occurrences as well, but I swear I have not been blacked out. I've just been thinking really hard.
Right.
There are people that have like driven next to me and they're like, they told me later, like, I was waving at you and I was trying to get your attention and you're just so in the zone, but it's because I'm like really in my head.
Yeah, that's how I am too. It's like the peace and quiet of being on the road. But another question I have for you this year for Renew, one thing that we are focusing on is just the power of positivity. And every day might not be the easiest day, but you still have to wake up and give it your best. So what does the power of positivity mean to you?
I don't call it the power of positivity. I call it the power of optimism, probably. I am a very optimistic person. I really think when I see situations and I really don't have experience in them, I also know that if I don't step up, then maybe nobody else will. And I learned that from a very young age. And so the optimism that I'm going to find the solution and work it out and things are going to be okay has just always been probably a really big secret to me being successful in my career. It really helps you approach situations that maybe and take opportunities that you usually would not. It helps you really kind of address challenges and put yourself out there a lot more, because again, it's just that optimism that things are going to work out, you're going to figure it out. There's just been so much change in this industry, and I always just think, if we can't figure it out, who else is better to do that? So I do have to watch my optimism sometimes, especially when there's like financial, numbers behind that. You can't just, be optimistic that it's all going to work out financially. You have to make sure everything pencils. But yeah, I always can see the good that can come out of these situations, and I have to tell you, I think they always do. When we did that merger, that really large merger, and even the smaller merger, I will go on record and say smaller mergers are tougher than larger mergers, because the smaller associations are just so much more weaved into the fabric of their associations, and everything that happens and every change, they take it much more personal. And a lot of times it was something that they created themselves or a family member created, and so it does it is more difficult than the larger mergers. But through all of those, I just always felt like it was going to work out the best that it could. I was always optimistic that we were going to figure it out as a team, and as long as we didn't give up and we constantly did our best, that it was going to come together, and it really has. We have built this really amazing culture at this association. I think a lot of times it's normal to say that when things get so large, you really lose the identity of who you are, or you don't have that touch to the subscriber or the members. And we have made sure that the cornerstone of our association at MLS really is just that. It's touch points, it's customer service, it's meeting where the members are, and kind of not forgetting that we don't want to be that group that has lost focus and touch with who we're really serving.
Yeah, I think that's really important, and especially as a leader, just keeping the optimism that everything is gonna stay the same, you're gonna stay close. It helps all the people that look up to you and work for you, because it is hard. It's hard to be optimistic. It's hard when everything seems super stressful and it piles on, that like the merger is hard, they're not going to accept it, we're not going to be able to do this. It's easy to kind of get down into that rabbit hole. So as a leader, I bet it's really helpful to your staff that you remain so optimistic.
I also think that, and I hope everybody can reflect on a moment like this. But even when bad things happen and you put some time behind it, you look back and there's something really good that came from it. And whether you learned or you went back a second time and you did it even better, I see that all the time in not just my career and life, but in other people's as well. And so I do really have this feeling that everything just happens how it needs to happen, and it is going to happen. And I think that also puts you much more at ease, especially in time of change and crisis.
Yeah, for sure. Everything happens for a reason. And it's like perfect circle going back to your CEO years ago that told you that the industry wasn't going to be around, And look at us, 20 years later, still kicking.
Well, when he told me that, I was so disappointed. I probably was like 23, 24 years old at the time. I'm about to celebrate actually 20 years, I think, this month. And I was so devastated because I finally found this career and this association that I was so excited about. I finally found the job that I really wanted to do, the career that I wanted to do. And then to hear that it was going away was, it was just heartbreaking to me. And so I told myself that I was going to work hard every single day to try to do what I could do to make sure that this industry was going to still be here. And it was selfish. It wasn't for other people. It was because I loved what I was doing, and I had no idea it was going to go where it went, obviously. But I think that has stayed with me, is that I want to continue to do everything that I can to make sure that what this is continues, that it's not just what we are, whether it's an association or an MLS. It's this industry that you learn so much about, and how important it is to consumers, and making sure that they have a professional who's walking them through this. Kind of going down a different lane real fast, I think it's really interesting about the younger generation, because I think for so long we've heard how with technology people aren't going to need realtors anymore. And I think the one thing that we see, and the older I get, the more I feel this way as well, is I definitely do not want to do the home buying or selling process by myself. We know enough to know that we don't know. And
Yeah.
we don't want that responsibility on us, especially when so much money is at stake and something that's so important to people. And so I think if anything, the importance of having a professional by your side through that process is something that the younger generation really, respects and wants to maintain. And so that's been really an interesting thing to kind of see evolve over the 20 years, because, there's just been so many inflection points during that time where people have said that, the importance of using a realtor was, going to go away, and it hasn't. And I think if anything, the younger generations have doubled down on the fact that they want that person by their side.
For sure. And it's something I was talking with my mom about recently. Actually, my mom's a loan officer. But, when you're in school, like I remember when I was in high school, they don't teach you anything about buying a home. They don't teach you anything about taxes or finance or nothing. So when you get into the real world and you're making the biggest purchase you make in your life, you want a professional by your side to help guide you because, like you said, you don't know what you don't know.
Yeah. I mean, it really, people don't really, I think, respect the fact how unique every single transaction really is. And I know, I feel like the people that are critical of our industry and what, realtors do or how much they make, or the expertise that they have to make these deals kind of come together, don't really realize that, all these people, these personalities are unique. And the way and what they like and their financial situation and where they live, all those things are different ingredients, that are kind of like out there. And they all have to come together in harmony between two people that usually don't know each other. And really it's like four, right? Because you have like not just the two consumers, the buyer and the seller, but you have the person representing each side, right? And then all of like your mom, the loan officer, and the mortgage company, the insurance, going on and on. All that has to come together perfectly in order to achieve what everybody is trying to get to. And that is unique. And so I absolutely think that people respect how important it is to have that professional by their side.
For sure. Something you said reminds me when my parents bought their house. Like you said, everybody's unique and they have different wants and needs. And my parents bought this kind of historic-y home on the Potomac River out here. And it had very specific curtains that my mom really wanted because it was hard to get them. So my mom's agent put it in the contract that she wanted the curtains and the curtain rods. Well, the person they were buying the house from used like a friend agent, I guess, who didn't really pay that much to the contract. And my parents got the curtains in the deal, and the homeowners were like, what the heck? Like, how did we not catch this? And it goes to show, like, who would think that somebody would want the curtains? It's like, Mom, really? You had to have the curtains? But,
I can't wait to see those curtains.
yeah. And it's just, if you didn't have an agent, stuff like that, it's so many personalities and nuances that you don't think about. So we're running out of time. It has been such a pleasure. But the last question that I want to ask you, it's the question that I leave every podcast off with. But if you could go back in time and give advice to your younger self, what would you tell little Dionna?
I think trust the journey. At least for me, I wasn't this person growing up that was probably enjoying life. I really was committed to doubling down and trying to be a professional, whatever that was going to be. And so there's a lot of moments where that didn't happen. I was very frustrated, and I think it caused me maybe not to enjoy the journey, especially younger in my life, and caused a lot of concern and worry. And so I would say just take a step back and trust the process and the journey, understanding that the moment you walk out of college is not your job that you'll have forever. So enjoy the journey and enjoy life.
Yeah, for sure. I think that speaks to your overall optimistic outlook because, like you said, everything is going to work out how it's supposed to be. And, when we're young, we don't really know where we're going to end up, but we just have to trust it's going to be a good place.
Absolutely.
Well, thank you so much. Before we hop off, I just want to give you a second. I know today is a special day, so if you want to talk a little bit about that, and also if you want to give a shout out to any cool things that are going on at Beaches MLS right now.
Thank you. Well, today is Staff Appreciation Day. And we have a lot of great people who make this association MLS, work. And I really have tried to show my appreciation as a CEO, especially one that has a lot of different locations and is, popping in and out of different traveling, and positions and what have you, to really personally thank our staff members for what they do. Of course, show them as well, right? It's nice to feel appreciated or talk about being appreciated. But this morning, going to everybody's office separately and really having moments with them to point out some of the really great things that they've done for us recently, so they know they're not just words, they're things that are, recognized and appreciated. We, of course, will be, ordering in lunch and doing some other special things for them. But I think it's really important, especially if you're a leader in your organization, to show appreciation for everybody and genuinely, right? I mean, it's really, recognizing the specific work that they're doing, so they know that it matters to the overall organization. And, again, our members and subscribers who are, maybe not thinking about us, but the things that they're doing every day to try to make a living, what we do here, does impact them. And so some of the things that we're doing here, one of the things that we're really proud about is we started a local consumer campaign. And that has been a great experience for us. It is not just commercials on TV, it's social media chasers. It's a lot of material for our members and subscribers to be able to put in their listing agreements, use at open houses, and we've been able to use that also to segue into the value of the MLS. And so when we started this local consumer campaign, it started shortly thereafter the pandemic, really in the pandemic. We all expected to see huge drops in members and subscribers, and that really just took off, especially here in South Florida, because our governor had deemed us an essential profession to continue working. And a lot of that had to do with our government affairs, relations, and contributions to the state. A big shout out to our local and state and national association for making sure that we had those contacts in place so we could do that. But we were able to continue doing business, and so as you know, there's a huge migration that came over here, which meant that we had a lot more members and we had more revenue. And we took that revenue and we invested it in what we felt like would give the most benefit to all of our members, which was a local consumer campaign talking about the benefits of using them. It was something that our members have asked for a very long time, to have us help tell their story in their local communities. They were proud of what they did, and they wanted to make sure that their consumers could appreciate, the value that they brought to them as well. And so we put together this campaign. It was very successful. And recently we've started licensing the local consumer campaign to our associations and MLSs. And we've packaged it really nicely. We call it, it's called Only a Realtor. And so it's only a realtor in a box. Basically, we can get them up and running in 45 days. But we put together a whole website for them that we white label. We put their name on it, their names on the commercials, all of the information as well. And we just released our newest commercial, and it is called Perfect Strangers. And what it does is it talks about buyer agreements. And our big emphasis of this commercial was to start socializing the word buyer agreements, because what we knew was buyer agreements and having the consumer sign one was new terminology, especially if they've already signed or they've already bought or sold a house before. Yeah. They're saying, why are you making me sign this? And then there's this level of distrust with their realtor. So we wanted to socialize the word buyer agreement, so when our realtors are sitting down with their clients, they would understand that this was a part of the home buying process now. And so that is what our commercial is about. And all of our commercials are really about as well pointing out how unique the transaction is in the marketplace and having their realtor by their side to kind of see that through. So if anybody's interested in that, we are licensing our commercials, and again, it's much more than a commercial. It's really a full-scale campaign, and it's there to really meet anybody's budget. We're able to work with an advertising firm that can really kind of talk to the MLS or the Realtor Association about what their budget is and make that ad buy work for them. So just one of the many things that we're doing, but we're pretty proud of that.
Yeah, I've actually seen it. So last year when I went to the Florida Realtors convention and the Wire convention that they put on, I think you were on stage and played it, and it's awesome.
Yeah.
It's great.
Yes, yes, it is. It's great, and it has been, you know, our industry is always changing, but I will say that for us to have that during this settlement, phase in the last year, to point to for our brokers to say, it's all about what have you done for me, what have you done for me lately, which is understandable. We have to always be proving our value. But this is one of the great things that we were able to say, like, this is what we're really trying to do to help you and your communities, and this is how you can use it, has been really helpful as far as leaning on that to be one of those many things that we can say, like, these are the things that we're trying to do for you, to make things better.
For sure. Well, if anybody is interested in seeing it, please reach out to Dionna. I will link her information to the podcast description too. But Dionna, thank you so much for taking the time to speak with us. It was an honor to highlight you during Women's History Month, and I just can't thank you enough. So thank you.
Thank you so much, and thank you, Rent Spray.
Of course, of course. Well, everybody who's listening, if you haven't already, please remember to like and subscribe to the Renew podcast on whatever pod platform you listen to us on. Continue the girl power. And remember, we are the ones that are all making history this month and beyond. So thank you, everybody, and have a great rest of your month. Thank you so much.
Thank you.